Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and with the patch 11.1 Season 2 content approaching oh so soon to the War Within expansion, which the update features a ton of new class changes, it looks like we're going to be seeing a lot less massive revamps, but a lot more class tuning, with many of us hoping that our favorite playstyles and favorite specs in the game end up being fairly popular in the competitive choice, whether you look at your raid, dungeons, or competitive PvP content. And one of the classes we'll be taking a look at a lot on this channel, one of the classes that got some of the most amount of changes with this massive update has been the Hunter. And it looks like the Hunter has gotten additional tuning as of 11.1. From the get-go, Hunter started off fairly strong in Season 2 PTR content, primarily with Beastmaster Hunter leading the charge, and it looks like they're trying to shift the balance a little bit by toning down the effectiveness of BEM, especially in AoE content, while continuing to raise and improve the effectiveness of both survival and marksmanship. The question is though, is this set of newest changes gonna be enough heading into Season 2 content? And that's why I want to take a closer look at all of the newer content changes and how they're looking and feeling to play so far on the PTR. As always, if you guys want to keep up with the regular updates regarding 11.1 class changes, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe, but otherwise, let's dive right in. So it's really coming down to the wire with 11.1 releasing oh so soon. Now is where classes are going through a bunch of tuning phases, with actually some sizable buffs and nerfs all across the board. And I'm sure they'll continue to tune classes a little by little as we head into the actual release of 11.1. And we'll probably get a whole tuning pass during the Heroic Week and the Mythic Week of the raid. So likely there'll be additional adjustments in the future, but nothing major like talent revamps and all those things. Everything that Hunters have gotten so far, with all the new talents and all the new abilities, is going to be staying as is, but they may tweak the numbers in the future. So, as for the class of Hunter, all three specs of Hunter, from Beast Mastery, Marksmanship, and Survival, are seeing some changes this week specifically, with them primarily focusing on the tuning of things. Beast Mastery is going to be the first spec that we're going to start up with, and this one has performed incredibly well so far in dungeons and apparently in raid testing as well. The numbers of the spec has been genuinely high, and when one class, or one spec rather, is doing better than a good portion of other classes, they usually tend to nerf them, so Beast Mastery, as expected, is seeing some nerfs. But apparently there's like some kind of a sneaky little buff that brought in through a hotfix that wasn't part of the blue post. We're not exactly sure if it's meant to be like, if it's meant to be a buff or if it's like an accidental thing that made its way into PTR realms. We'll talk about in a second. But first, let's go over all of these nerfs that are hitting Beastmaster Hunter. Most of these nerfs are going to be from the perspective of AoE damage and Mythic Plus specifically. So things like Beast Cleave go from a 90% cleave from your pets to 80%. While after your multi-shot, your pet's melee attacks also strike nearby targets with a soft cap of 8 targets, so technically it doesn't really have a hard cap, so you can cleave multiple things pretty aggressively, which is pretty good. But yeah, Beast Cleave aspect, which is where a huge portion of your AoE damage comes from, they're reducing the power of those pet cleave from 90% cleave to an 80% cleave. Then also with Kill Cleave, whenever you have Beast Cleave active in your kill command, your pets also strike nearby targets, also with the soft cap of 8 targets. This one is also getting reduced from 90% cleave to 80% cleave, which is unfortunate. But yeah, that's going to be a pretty decent portion of your overall AoE damage. It's getting downgraded a little bit, even though we got to test out these changes on the PTR after this recent Beastmaster nerfs. Apparently Beastmaster is still cranking when it comes to their numbers, but it may be due to this little sneaky hotfix that Blizzard might have either accidentally or intentionally snuck in as a buff for Beast Mastery. They also fixed an issue where your Call of the Wild, I guess it's not really an issue, but the nerf Call of the Wild, I guess is the best way to put it, where Call of the Wild now reduces the cooldown of Barb Shot and Kill Command by 25% per summon beast instead of by 50%. So you're gonna slightly see less aggressive uses of Kill Command or Barb Shot. But I guess if you're playing Pack Leader, there are some situations where you actually want a Cobra Shot, at least in AoE content, because the boar allows that Cobra Shot to cleave multiple targets. So not being in a situation where you're just constantly spamming Kill Command does mean lower damage, but it does give you empty globals to be able to cleave, I guess, if you want to look at a one positive of this change. But yeah, that is going to be a slight reduction towards Call of the Wild. I still think Call of the Wild is going to be the go-to talent for the most part, especially if you're playing, I don't even know what hero talent you're going to end up playing in 11.1. Pack Leader looks really good, but I tried Dark Ranger. It seems to have some teeth of its own too. That one has also got a direct synergy with Call of the Wild, so Dark Ranger would need it anyway. Pack Leader, I believe you still will end up using it. I guess it depends how your capstone interacts with, because it buffs your beast, which is a beast summon from Pack Leader, but it also buffs all of your pets with this capstone. And Call of the Wild summons pets from your stables. If they're treated as pets, then this is a direct buff. They can be directly buffed by the capstone. If they're dire beasts and they're not treated as pets but summons, then it may not, but it really depends how Blizzard will end up coding the ability and the interaction. But on paper, it should be all pets from your stables that should get benefit from either the capstone of Pack Leader or Dark Rangers, I guess what I'm trying to say. So you're probably still going to end up playing Call of the Wild either way. Apparently they also fixed an issue, and I guess they could call it an issue, but apparently a dire command will no longer grant you stacks of Huntmaster's Call, so it's going to take a little bit longer for you to get Hottie and Fenrir up and running, and apparently those two were being summoned more regular than usual. They also fixed an issue where summoning Pack Leader beasts also granted you Huntmaster Call stacks, so I guess they're not meant to be treated as dire beasts. I guess they're meant to be treated as your own pets that you get to summon. But you're probably going to see a little bit less value out of Huntmaster's Call. But also that means directly when you summon more dire beasts, which you would normally summon through Huntmaster's Call, they would also get Beast Cleave at 100% effectiveness for 8 seconds, so that offered even more AoE. So you can kind of see how like all of these AoE nerfs are kind of compounding on top of one another, primarily affecting Beast Mastery, mostly within AoE content. But let's talk about that one sneaky little buff that they snuck in for Beast Mastery. The spec still cranks great numbers, and testing it out, it does a lot. What it looks like they did this week specifically is your capstone, or I guess your tier set, allows your pets to gain the buff of potent mutagen. Hitting a jackpot, which you would do normally through Bestial Wrath or through random abilities, infuses your pets with a mutagen, causes its auto attacks to deal nature damage to its target and up to 5 enemies within 10 yards for 8 seconds. Mutagenic attacks reduce the cooldown of Bestial Wrath by 0.5 seconds. Normally, this would affect your primary pet, so only like my Mishka, for example, which is my primary summon pet, would get the potent mutagen, which deals, as you can see, quite a bit of damage in AoE content, like from what that pet can do. Mutagen does a lot of damage just from that pet specifically, contributed to a huge portion of its overall output. But apparently your secondary pet, if you summon it through the Animal Companion, apparently now also gets mutagen. I am not sure if that's meant to be a thing, but if I press Bestial Wrath, you should see my pets both go green, and that's how you know they get this mutagen buff. I'm not a big fan of this animation, this green covering of all these pets. I feel like you could probably green screen them if you really wanted to. But yeah, so that mutagenic impact, that is applied for both of your pets instead of just one. And you can see a good portion of my overall damage was from just potent mutagen in AoE content. It is a very strong tier set. Just by itself, it deals a lot of damage. I'm not sure, and I would have looked into a Hunter Discord. They're also not exactly sure if this is meant to be a thing or if it's a bug. If this is meant to be a thing, that's a big buff of Beast Mastery that kind of offsets a lot of these other nerfs. If it's not meant to be a thing, then I expect for Beast Mastery to at least lose out on some of that potent mutagenic damage potentially going forward. But still, even if you were to take out that Tazala potent mutagen for my secondary pet, I still would have done a great bit of overall damage. But maybe this is an intended mechanic. Who really knows? I guess only time will really be able to tell. Either way, Beast Mastery, at least after these nerfs, seem to be performing still fairly well. It is a very popular spec that looked like it had a decent leg up ahead of other rage specs and overall. And hopefully they'll continue to allow it some viability and playability into the next season. I actually would like to see more hunters being more competitive of an option with the Mythic Plus going forward. Then we have the spec of marksmanship, where they're trying to clean up a lot of their talents, and the marksmanship rework I've actually been kind of enjoying. Just the array of new talents and a lot of these playability options, testing out different builds. I've been having a lot of fun with it because I feel like it breathes a little bit of fresh air into marksmanship. It allows you more ways for you to configure your spec for a variety of different raid fights and Mythic Plus dungeon fights and a variety of other encounters, and hopefully it'll be a healthy change for marksmanship overall. but they're also seeing a couple of adjustments, primarily when it comes to some of the capstones that it gets to play with in order to make them a little bit more effective. So Marksmanship gets to play around very similar playstyle of aim shots on rapid fire for the most part, and then you would sink in a couple of precise shots after you aim shot. But there's a capstone in the bottom left called Windrunner's Quiver that I'm actually going to play around with recently. Windrunner's Quiver allows your precise shots to stack up 2 times, and its damage bonus is reduced to 90%. So it doesn't give you 2 aim shots that could benefit from precise shots. Instead, a single aim shot or a multi-shot basically doubles up in effectiveness of the actual buff. They previously had it where casting aim shot had a chance, like a 50% chance, to add you an additional stack of precise shots. So every time you aim shot, either you sometimes you get 1 stack or 2 stack. So you could get a weaker version of aim shot or multi-shot, or a stronger version. But recently they changed it so to remove all the RNG where aim shots always grant you 2 stacks of precise shot, which doubles up or increases the damage of your aim shot or multi-shot by quite a decent bit. I actually like this change overall, and especially with the way that you can play Marksmanship right now in dungeons, it can add a lot of consistency where you can just aim shot, multi-shot, and that damage that you get to fire out back to back is very effective. I'm a big fan of them removing some of the RNG out of the spec. And I felt like that RNG was not really that necessary, but it does make Windrunner's Quiver and like an aim shot, multi-shot playstyle work a little bit better. On the opposite side, we have Bullet Hell, which kind of, I'm pretty sure Marksmanship used to have a tier set that was very similar to what Bullet Hell offers in terms of its mechanics and playstyle. At least I'm pretty sure they used to. Maybe it was Dragonflight last season. I'm trying to remember it, but I can't. But Bullet Hell, damage from multi-shot and volley reduces the cooldown of rapid fire by 0.3 seconds, and damage from aim shot reduces the cooldown of volley by 0.5, so you can get volley back a little bit quicker, and there's some synergies with volley as well. So they increased the cooldown reduction of this. It used to be 0.3 from multi-shots. So the talent used to be that it was 0.25% cooldown reduction from either multi-shot, volleys for rapid fire, or aim shot for volley cooldown reduction, but then they changed it so multi-shot volley now is 3.3 seconds, while aim shot is 0.5. So better cooldown reduction and a little bit more smarter cooldown reduction, as the way you use aim shots, multi-shots, volleys, all of those things, it has different intervals and different uptime to it. So adjusting the cooldown reduction should allow you for more volley and for more rapid fire uses. This is actually a very cool talent, not because of its on the way that it functions by itself, but when you combine Bullet Hell with the multi-shot, volley, rapid fire, aim shot, volley synergy, you pick up volley, maybe you could pick up like damage increase from volley potentially, and also you could pick up things like double tap, which can proc from your volley too, or even if you just pick 1 talent, 2 talent, go all the way down to the capstone, that volley double tap synergy combo, that could be very good altogether. I'm actually very excited to see how some hunters might be able to put those two together. Apparently they also fixed a couple of issues regarding aspect of the Hydra, which is an alternative talent to trick shots. Trick shots function exactly the same. When you multi-shot and hit 3 targets, your next aim shot or rapid fire will strike up to 5 additional targets, dealing additional damage for a portion of its damage. Or you could go for aspect of the Hydra, which gives you passive cleave for aim shot, rapid fire, and arcane shot to just hit a secondary target for free for 60% of his damage. They increase the damage benefit of it from a 40% damage cleave to a 60% to try to make it better. And I'm actually very excited about this talent because Marksmanship always has had a weird dead zone when it comes to hitting 2 targets. They're really good at 1 target or a 3 and above targets for the trick shot, but at 2 targets they just didn't have any like normal cleave. And now you might be able to specialize into this aspect of the Hydra constant cleave, which could be very exciting for the overall cleave capabilities. So hopefully Marksmanship Hunter does get a lot of value out of aspect of the Hydra in the long run. And finally, we have the black sheep of the class, the survival spec, which technically looks really good on paper heading into 11.1. And some of the changes they've done for it, it does seem pretty good. It looks like potentially they might be picking up the Mongoose build with all these different buffs towards the Raptor Strike and Mongoose build. So survival hunters are likely going to be wielding a pretty big stick going forward, which should mean a lot more damage, but we're seeing further improvements. Like in single target damage, they have flank and strike. They buff this damage by 30%. Technically, there's some weirdness between your pet, whether it's close to you, whether it's not close to you, and the mastery damage buff from the pet, because flank and strike does cause you and your pet to charge at a target, but if you guys are too far apart, it doesn't do the same amount of damage as it's supposed to. So it's a simple bug that may potentially be fixed in the future, but if it works properly, technically that's a sizable increase that should give you quite a bit of decent damage in pure single target. When it comes to the talent of Frenzy Strikes, it has been changed a little to support Butchery and Flank Strike differently. For Flank Strike, it increases damage further by 40%. Flank Strike also increases your attack speed by 25% for 12 seconds after you use it. Apparently, this talent for some reason was doing too much of a damage aim for your pet, so they've fixed an issue where it was granting your pet double the damage bonus instead. Another exciting change for survival, especially for dungeon situations, is to Fury of the Eagle. Not only are the impetus damaged by 20%, which is a sizable increase, but they also are increasing its soft cap. Normally the ability would deal reduced damage beyond 5 targets, they're increasing that soft cap to 8 targets, which technically on paper, for survival, that's a sizable damage increase, since the ability hit on its own hits very hard, and together with the capstone of Ruthless Marauder, you also generate stacks of tip, while also allowing the ability to deal additional damage, and it grants you haste as well, so all those tip stacks can also be further amplified for your other abilities to chain off of to deal even more AoE damage. But overall, the Fury of the Eagle ability and its AoE buff should make survival very strong in AoE content on paper. There's a lot of excitement about this spec, but also not a lot of play for it over on the PTR. For the most part, you see Beastmaster Hunters running around, but in terms of survival, they should be very strong in dungeons, but we just don't see nearly as many of them as we should, with so many different AoE buffs and the entire rework they've gotten for their talent tree. I mean, it should give them over a lot of damage with the pack leader and the AoE damage you can do with Hawk Shredder. Some of the things and changes with their tier set too should give them a very strong cleave capabilities, and the spec should overall be doing a lot more damage and should be really good and well set up for Mythic Plus content. So there's a lot of excitement about the spec in the community, specifically in terms of how much damage it should be able to do and how good it should be. And there's a lot of hope that it may potentially be a very meta option, but it's still hard to tell if it is going to be a good option in the long term, because it's always ends up being kind of like this, you know, side spec that doesn't nearly get the same amount of attention or popularity. And while it should be an excellent pick, it ends up being less popular pick in more cases than not, outside of like certain seasonal dungeons. Outside of certain seasons like the Shadowlands Season 3, where it was doing ludicrous damage with its bombs, literally more damage than any other class in the game. Besides this, pack leader for survival has also been buffed up a little bit with Fury of the Wyvern, which basically allows your Wildfire Bomb to extend the ability further by 5 seconds instead of by 2 seconds. So 2 Wildfire Bombs will give you full additional extension of Fury of the Wyvern instead of extending it by 2 seconds, causing you to go through and churn through 5 Wildfire Bombs to fully amp it, which also frees you up in a couple of different globals to be able to use all of your other abilities, like hit the enemy with your big stick while also you're cleaving things down with the Hawk Strider, which is going to be a good portion of your overall AoE damage. But like I said, hopefully survival will be one of those specs that will end up leveling out. So far, we haven't seen that many of them running around on the PTR. And even when it comes to players actually using them, there's not too much data to really parse through when it comes to logs and such. But I'm still hopeful because it's looking very promising, at least so far, that we've seen with this spec and the rework that it's had. And hopefully survival will end up coming into its own when it comes to the overall meta for Season 2. But as always though, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys did enjoy this update. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give this video a like. I would very much appreciate it. Join our Discord community where we constantly go over all of the newest changes and some of the biggest improvements arriving to PTR builds, or whenever those patch changes arrive with the rest of the community. Also, let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in our next one.